Ladies and gentlemen, this is really, really interesting. Every single day we find out something new. Every single day we find out yet another page in a chapter in a never-ending book of how they set up and framed President Trump. Now, it's really interesting. On Fox Business, there was an interview with one of the Wall Street Journal editorial board writers. And she was like, I don't know if you've seen it, it was on Fox Business. And she was like, well, it's very bizarre because the Justice Department under President Obama was, interestingly enough, working with the State Department alongside the Federal Bureau of Investigations. And it's kind of bizarre why they would utilize a dossier purchased by Clinton, but and then she went on to say the appetite for it, a lot of people just roll their eyes and glaze over everything. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, that's the way some Republicans, so she's very likely conservative or generally Republican, that's the way some Republicans feel. Meanwhile, there's millions upon millions upon millions of people who want to know what Tom Fitton and Sarah Carter and John Solomon are talking about right now. This will never go away. There's political will, because she was trying to say, well, there's not really political will. Not only is there political will, you have a president who will never stop. He will never, ever, ever stop until we get to the bottom of this. And the only way we're going to get to the bottom of this is to just start indicting people eventually. There's enough evidence, and I explained in my Federalist article, to indict people, to prosecute people under the statute that they tried to get Trump on, which is hilarious because they're the ones who will eventually get charged under this statute. John Durham and William Barr are working to charge people under the 18 U.S. Code 371 statute. But this is just a couple hours ago, like 1 hour ago, new evidence shows why Steele, the Orrs, and TSA workers never should have become DOJ sources. So we're finding out that Bruce Orr's wife, Nellie was one of the central figures in all of this. And it's interesting, if you flip the script, if the shoe were on the other foot, if the tables were turned, would they allow, and by the way, it's interesting how Mueller doesn't know who Fusion GPS is or Glenn Simpson, but would they allow the wife of one of President Trump's top officials at his Justice Department to relay information from the company outsourced by Trump, or by a Republican, let's say, to get a Republican administration's FBI and intelligence community to begin an investigation into Clinton based solely on a dossier? And some former ambassadors gossip, and let's assume this ambassador was linked to one of the Trump foundations, or like some kind of Trump venture. They would never allow this to take place. So I find I find it astounding. And by the way, check out H.A. Goodman's other channel. It is below, and it's in the pinned comment, and I talk about a certain painting. Very bizarre. A painting that... a painting of, oh my God, I look so great in that painting. I feel the color of what I was wearing goes with my complexion, and I can't tell you how happy I am that my good buddy. I'll continue on H.A. Goodman's other channel, over 7,000 subs, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to it, tell your friends about it. But let's just read this. Glenn Simpson was the CEO of Fusion GPS, or the founder of Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS was an opposition research firm. Now, the naysayers or Democrats or people who don't want to listen to reason, they say, well, you know what, it's just an opposition research firm, and Republicans use it also. No, Republicans had nothing to do. The Washington Free Beacon had nothing to do with the Steele Dossier. Washington Free Beacon ended its relationship with Glenn Simpson. And then once Glenn Simpson and Fusion GPS were contracted by Clinton's campaign through a law firm, only then did they start working with Christopher Steele. Christopher Steele was compiling a dossier with help from one active Russian intelligence officer and Russian sources. Clinton knew this. They say that Clinton didn't know. There's 6 degrees of separation, or, plausible deniability. No, there is. You would not give Trump plausible deniability for this. If Trump outsourced the Steele dossier with help from Russian sources to say that the Golden Muumuu enjoyed bodily fluids raining down upon her, enjoy the visual, they would never allow that. So we have information that Nellie Orr was giving to Bruce Orr, her husband, and Bruce Orr was giving to the FBI and also the State Department. And then the State Department was giving that information to the Clinton campaign. But this is interesting. New evidence shows why Steele, the Orr's TSA workers, should never have become DOJ sources. One of the inevitable outcomes of the Russia case will be the Department of Justice almost certainly will need internal reforms. Well, people need to get indicted, but the first reform is the most obvious, given the unraveling of the Russia collusion narrative. This is from John Solomon. He's awesome. A new set of rules governing when the FBI can investigate or spy on a First Amendment-protected political campaign during an election. The FBI never should have been allowed to sustain a counterintelligence investigation into Donald Trump's campaign based on hearsay. And I've been using that word for a long time. If you watch this channel, you know I've been using that word gossip and hearsay for a long time on this channel. And in my writing, from Australian diplomat Alexander Dano, who helped arrange a $25 million Australian government donation to the Clinton Foundation. And on a minimally verified dossier, nothing was verified, but minimally verified dossier written by British spy Christopher Steele, who was working on the Hillary Clinton opposition research team. The second reform may be less visible, but becomes painfully obvious thanks to a series of internal DOJ investigative memos released this month that expose glaring issues with the handling, vetting, and weighting of, quote, confidential human sources. That's a fancy term for people, sometimes called snitches or informants, in the street vernacular, who secretly provide evidence to law enforcement. Some examples of DOJ problems with informers fall outside the Russia case, but mirror the same issues unmasked in the now debunked probe of Trump. Take, for example, the DOJ Inspector General's finding this month that the DEA was paying other government officials at the Homeland Security Department's Transportation Security Administration to work as informants. The IG spared few words in decrying the idiocy of allowing government security officers collecting a federal salary to double dip into taxpayers' money by receiving informant pay to report criminal activity they were required by their jobs to disclose. Wow, that's... Okay, so then it gets to... that line similarly was breached in the minds of many when Bruce Orr, then the DOJ's Assistant Deputy Attorney General, began collecting anti-Trump information on July 30th, 2016 from former MI6 agent Steele and pushing it on the top levels of DOJ and FBI. Nobody was indicted based on the Steele dossier. None of it was true. If any of it was true, people would have been indicted because there would have been enough evidence of a grandiose endeavor to conspire with another country. Nobody was indicted on that. Nobody was prosecuted. There's over 30 people who were indicted on charges of allegedly lying to people like Peter Strzok. The FBI, what they did is utilize the U.S. government to get people to flip and sing when the FBI didn't do that. Comey and Strzok and McCabe didn't do that with the Clinton email investigation. Everyone was given immunity. They were handing immunity out like candy. Everybody was given immunity. Nobody was told to flip and sing. Nobody was squeezed, even for committing illegal acts like Brian Pagliano. You cannot set up a server. I mean, Clinton could have easily turned on Pagliano and said, look, I didn't ask him to do all this. And then he would have then completely served as the basis for a prosecution for Clinton. Okay? Pagliano, Justin Cooper, they have all the goods on Clinton. So does Platte River and Dado Inc., by the way. But I explained that in Butter Top Secret emails and Butter Deleted emails on Amazon. Just read them if you want to get the complete explanation of all this craziness. But at the time, Orr knew his wife Nellie and Steele worked for a Fusion GPS research firm on the same project to dig up Russian dirt on Trump to help the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee win the 2016 election. Furthermore, Orr told the FBI he knew Steele was a foreigner desperate to stop a Trump presidency, FBI memo shows. So not only was the Steele dossier complete nonsense, Nothing was verified except, like, very basic things like Carter Page went to Russia. I mean, that's not, it's kind of like, you cannot say things are verified when they're just, like, the most broad, pieces of knowledge. Oh, well, he went to Russia. Yes, so what? So what? What does that even mean? Michael Cohen was in Europe. Yeah, but he wasn't in Prague. And Carter Page wasn't working with Russian intelligence officers to undermine Clinton in the 2016 election. And oh, by the way, Putin's not scared or afraid of Clinton. He got 20% of U.S. uranium capacity given to him while there was a bribery and racketeering scandal on U.S. soil. So how on earth is Putin afraid of Clinton? With his seniority inside the DOJ, Orr quickly got Steele's information to FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe and 3 top DOJ supervisors despite red flags. Before long, Steele was working as a confidential informant for the Bureau, and his dossier was used to secure a surveillance warrant targeting the Trump campaign weeks before Election Day. When Steele got fired November 1st, 2016 by the FBI for leaking to the media, Orr became a conduit for the Bureau to keep getting information from Steele for months. Orr met at least 12 times in late 2016 and 2017 with FBI agents to provide new intel from the British spy. So they fired him just for public relations. They were speaking with him. They were actively discussing how to undermine Trump with Christopher Steele through Bruce and Nellie Orr. In other words, Orr transitioned from being a DOJ supervisor to a backdoor source. This was the back channel. They used all these cloak and dagger terms. But backdoor source for the FBI to receive information from a terminated source. And he didn't stop there. Records released this week, thanks to litigation by Judicial Watch, show the senior DOJ officials took at least 2 research files from his wife and her Fusion GPS work and provided them to the FBI agents investigating Trump. Okay, this is such an overt setup. You have the wife of a Justice Department official, the number 4 at the Justice Department, funneling information through her husband, to set up and frame Trump. I mean, it's pretty easy to get. William Barr and John Durham, if I understand all of this, then William Barr and John Durham know a lot more. They're privy to classified information that I don't have, that nobody has. So it's just interesting it's really interesting when I listen to that Wall Street Journal editor or one of the Wall Street Journal writers on the editorial board. She was like, people just glaze over, they gloss over it. It's just too much for them. It's like, what? So you're going to let Democrats try to utilize the United States government to frame Trump, but there's no payback. There's no retribution. And it's not even payback or retribution. There's no justice. So it's okay if they try to steamroll Trump, but then he can't find out all the criminal behavior, because that would be just, people are so tired of it. Really? I don't think so. There's political will. There are millions and millions and millions of people who know what's going on. There are people on the left who know what's going on. They don't care. Here's a little secret about the left. They know, a lot of people on the left know what they're doing is immoral and vile, but they don't care. They know that working with people like Comey and Strzok and McCabe could end up biting them in the rear end, but they don't care. They're going to just scratch and claw, and they don't care if the United States government is utilized for sinister purposes as long as it helps them. That's it. That's all they care about. All they care about is trying to regain power by any means necessary. Examination of the Nellie Orr documents given to the FBI shows some of her source material also came from Ukrainian presidential candidate Yulia Tymoshenko and a lawsuit she filed against Manafort. Okay, so Nellie Orr not only utilized information from Russia, but also from the Ukraine. Nellie Orr testified to Congress that some of her anti-Trump information came from foreign officials in the Ukraine, including a parliamentary member highly critical of Manafort. So, interestingly enough, they're working with foreign nationals. They're working with foreign countries. They interfered in the election. Okay, and if you listen to the Democrats, how did they interfere how did Russia interfere? Oh, well, they informed the country They informed the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated. Oh my God. So Bruce Orr became a conduit of information not only for intelligence from Clinton's British opposition research, but also from his wife's curation of evidence. From a Clinton foreign ally and Manafort enemy in Ukraine. Talk about foreign influence in the U.S. election. Exactly. To Orr's credit. Okay, so he disclosed his potential conflict of interest involving his wife to DOJ officials. So, to the DOJ's discredit, he was allowed to act as a source for both his wife and Steele anyway. See, Trump is right. You cannot allow this to take place. I mean, people have to be indicted. They will eventually. But, like I said, I think it's going to happen after the election. The election is what? Less than a year and a half away. The next year and a half, ladies and gentlemen, and I was thinking the other day, I fear is going to be perhaps one of the most divisive, chaotic times in American history. And it won't be Trump doing it. It'll be media. It'll be Democrats. It'll be Clinton, because she's running again, and it's going to be Clinton 2020. I don't care when she runs, October, November, December, she'll run. They're not going to roll with, it's a mathematical equation. They cannot raise money with anyone else. They have zero chance with anyone else. Zero chance. Because they have to outspend Trump 2-1 to even get close. She outspent Trump 2-1 and she lost. So then what, how are they going to win with just a 1-to-1 fundraising equation? How does that work? So they'd be absolutely stupid not to go for Clinton 2020. And anyway, they have to, because it's an extension of two people. But there is no Democratic Party. There is no left. There's no value system. It's an extension of just two people. Orr also didn't get compensated as a paid informant. But documents show a curious thing happened during the time he began peddling anti-Trump intelligence from his wife and Steele. His annual performance bonus doubled from about $14,000 to $28,000 in November. So for $28,000, you essentially sell your country out with your wife and corrupt intel officials and State Department officials who have direct links to Clinton. So, this is like you are now part of this is the biggest scandal in U.S. history, along with the Clinton email investigation. The Clinton debacle, where she had servers outside the U.S., and I explain in my segment today, she was using a cable company to log on to the internet while she had top secret and special access program intelligence on her emails. Okay? She was using emails that were going through servers, her server, and also utilizing a cable company at Chappaqua. I explained that today. So it's before the AOC video. So I've written about the FBI kept a spreadsheet showing almost all of what Steele provided agents or on Trump-Russia dirt turned out to be unverified, disproven, or nothing more than internet rumors. It's not just unverified. It's complete. Unverified is being too generous. It's complete nonsense and fantasy. But when the FBI closed its paperwork on Steele in 2018, a professional intelligence analyst concluded his human source validation report that he bureau assessed only medium confidence in Steele that his intelligence could be minimally verified. They always, hide their incompetence and overt, vile intentions with this legalese. We're moderately confident that all of this could possibly take place. We're moderately confident. So, in other words, his intelligence wasn't very good, and yet America spent nearly 3 years in turmoil only to learn that Steele's Trump-Russia allegations paid by Clinton and propaganda by Orr were not true. The tales of Bruce and Nellie Orr, Christopher Steele, Timoshenko, and those DEA and TSA officials raise a stark warning. The lines between government officials and informants, unverified political dirt, and real intelligence, personal interests, and law enforcement became too blurred for the Justice Department's own good. That's a problem in need of fixing. Okay, this is a fantastic article by John Solomon, who's at the I used to be, by the way, a contributor at The Hill. But John Solomon is an amazing journalist, and he can't just simply just go out there and say, oh yeah, it was just a setup, and they had evil intentions and all that stuff. I mean, he's at the forefront of all of this, but he knows. John Solomon knows. Sarah Carter knows. Tom Fitton, Dan Bongino, Paul Sperry. Look, Greg Jarrett. There's a bunch of people. Everybody knows. The whole country knows that Trump was set up and framed. The left knows that too. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. Everything that they look. Even the left that doesn't like Trump knows that he was set up. They don't care also. So the people who are on the left, journalists, are like, yeah, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, they can't say that Clinton set up Trump because that would be disloyal to their side. So they say, well, you hold the Russia thing, it's the intelligence community, it's just batty as usual. They know, though, at the end of the day, it was all Clinton. She's running again because, she has what seems to be unlimited political influence and power. It's what seems to be. Now, you have Steve Bannon recently. You have Kimberly Strassel. You have some journalists at Sky News. I've been telling you since 2017 she's running. She's eventually going to run. And it's going to be after the debacle. Look, when Marianne Williamson wins the second debate, who do you think's going to win the third debate? If it's Marianne Williamson again, the ghosts and goblins that she knows aren't going to knock on doors for money, for fundraising. Okay? So that'll just prove they don't have any chance at all. Willie Brown, Steve Bannon, me, everyone is telling, I'm telling you, and if you just ask people who know politics, they know what's going on, there's nobody the Democrats have who can come close to Trump. All of this, from cheating Bernie Sanders to blaming Russia to trying to set up Trump to now calling him, yelling at the top of their lungs, racist, blaming him for everything, the media causing this insanity by sensationalizing things he doesn't even say, by just obsessing over his personality, and the fact that he upends everything, which is fantastic. That's another thing people don't realize. Like, how can you like Trump? Because one of the best things about Trump is that he drives them completely batty. Intelligence community, media, Democrats, liberals, politically correct fools, all of these people, he drives them nuts. That's one of the best things about Trump. Because all of these people wield power not with compassion, not with a sense of, okay, we're all Americans, we're all one country. They wield their influence by trying to condemn and judge when they're not in a position to do either. And so the fact that Trump just is a wrench on their whole vision of the world, it's just fantastic. And they keep losing. CNN anchors are losing left and right. And now you have this fantastic painting, and I'll talk about it on H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. It'll be below. Check out also Billy Boy Clinton took somebody to the jewelry store. Inside Edition talked about that. That's also on H.A. Goodman's other channel. If you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below. If you want to support H.A. Goodman's other channel, because I'm doing that right now. It's not even, not monetized yet, but when it hopefully does eventually, I talk about things that are just, you can't really talk about. So I'm completely uncensored there, and I'll continue to be that way. But if you want to see a different side of me, it's H.A. Goodman's other channels below in the pinned comment. We're over 7,000. We're on our way to 8,000. Let's get it to 10,000 subs, ladies and gentlemen. You'll love that channel. Thank you so very, very much. One last thing. Read my Federalist articles below. My Jerusalem Post articles will help explain a lot of what's going on regarding a certain topic I'm not going to get into. I'll probably get into on H.A. Goodman's other channel. But President Trump, in terms of foreign policy, domestic policy, in terms of how the media reacts to people and how social media, he's single-handedly destroying Twitter. It's unbelievable. He's single-handedly, Trump is virtually single-handedly destroying these technological, theocratic, alternate universes where you have blue checkmark people just trying to condemn, demean, disparage, marginalize, call everyone bigot, call everyone racist, and then demand and expect forgiveness when they're, found out to be not pristine or they have issues in their past. You had Chris Cuomo who threatened to throw a guy down the stairs. Check out my segment on H.A. Goodman's other channel. If Democrats get the laws they want, he would be completely barred from owning any firearms. You cannot threaten someone's life like Chris Cuomo did, and I explain in H.A. Goodman's other channel. Go there right now. Thank you so very, very much.